Hi, Joe Cerrone with part 2 of our 3D Builder Lab. In part 1, we showed how to convert this JPEG image to a 3D printable file using 3D Builder, and then we imported that geometry into our Dremel slicer. And what we did was we imported the geometry for a circular disc as a coin, and then the Cubs logo. And then we printed those. And what I've done is I've gone through and printed it again, and I'm going to demonstrate the results of that job. So switching over to my second camera, I'm going to stop my share. You can see I ran one of these parts in gray, and I'm going to go pull the parts out of the 3D printer. So here's our Cubs logo. And what I've done here is I've flipped it. And so I had it on the reverse image on the build plate so that we get a smoother finish quality to it. I'm going to take that off with this putty knife. And so here's our part. And what we did was we used horizontal expansion on this so that we can then insert it into our positive or negative shape. And so our negative shape is right here. And we printed this without any horizontal expansion. And so we used a negative value on this one of -0.2 millimeters. And this one we didn't do anything with to change it. I'm just going to leave this one on the build plate for right now. And then what I like to do is I'll just go through and I'll work with some of my tools here. I really like using manicure tools to be able to go through and to work with these. You're also, a good idea is to have a set of files. I have some small files right here that I typically will use. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove, this is really a very big brim. And we use the brim to keep things from coming off the build plate, but I don't know if I really need one for this because it's a quick build. So we'll clean this up. And then we can take our filing instruments and we can file this. There's post-processing to any of these techniques as we go through and we work with them. And then as I start to separate these different objects like this, we can then clean these up as well. And so I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. And the idea was that we would have this nice smooth bottom to our Cubs logo that we can then insert into our geometry here. And so I do have a little bit more cleanup work, but just for the sake of making the video, I'm just going to leave it at that for right now. And I can turn these right side up or upside down. As you work with the smaller pieces, remember they will come apart. And so they have a tendency to kind of fly across the room. If I was going to build this again, I think I would not use so much build plate adhesion as I did on this one, because it just has a lot of post processing. And then the idea is that we can put this into our existing and see how it just kind of snaps in there like that. And that's the fit that we want. I do need to clean this up a little bit more, but as you can see, as we start to assemble this, we have a very good workable Cubs logo. Okay, with that, I'm going to pause the video. I'll clean this up and then we'll end the recording. Okay, resuming. So as I went through and I started to remove the material to kind of clean these up so that I can assemble them, what I found was that it was really a lot more difficult to kind of deburr these. And so as I started working with this, the problem was that the build plate adhesion that I had set up was so thick that I couldn't put it into the parts correctly. So what I did was I ran another one without a brim on it. And so it's a lot cleaner. Now, when we take these off of the build plate, and I'm just going to disassemble this piece over here. And see, that's kind of what we want. We want a nice tight fit, and we're using horizontal expansion to achieve that. But you can kind of see there's just so much post-processing to removing that material that this would work better. Now, before I take this off of the build plate, since the letters are all separated, we're going to want to put a piece of tape on it. And so what I would do would be to get a piece of duct tape and place it on the logo. And then remove it. And when you remove these, be careful not to hurt yourself with the putty knife. And so by holding it together with tape, I did get a little bit of movement, but you can see that the build side, or the side that was on the glass plate, is nice and smooth. And so let's switch these out and come back to our original. And let's see how our horizontal expansion held up. And so I've got my letter S. Here's my cubs. Here's my other components. And there we go. This one needs a little bit of work. Could probably clean that up slightly. My B is a little bit tight as well. So that one may have to work a little bit. The S fits very well. It's our outer rim. And now it should be just fine. Okay, and there we have it. Our Cubs logo printed in 2 colors using horizontal expansion. Okay, that ends this recording.